Hello, Dr. Rory Everett is my name. I'm a Commodity Risk Manager with INTL FC Stone. Many of you have been inquiring about the EU maize import levy that's now being implemented for maize entering the EU at the moment. So the purpose of this video is very simply to explain, give you a little bit of colour on that import levy as it stands right now. So the EU have responsibility for implementing this levy, and the background to it, or the purpose of the levy, is simply to try and protect farm prices for corn within the European Union. So what they try to do is assess the international corn price, and if it falls below a certain point, they try and protect the farmers within the EU. That's the purpose of it. It doesn't always work as it's supposed to, but that's the purpose and the background of it. It's a long-standing program that's been in place for many years, and it works on a formula basis. So 90% of the time there isn't an import levy to worry about. 90% of the time we don't have to worry about this, but from time to time we do, and we're in one of those periods at the moment. And the formula is really quite simple. It takes the CME, Chicago Board of Trade, corn futures price, and it adds to that an FOB premium, and that's for corn, the US Gulf. And then it adds further to that a freight price, and that freight is from the US Gulf to Rotterdam. Okay? Now, obviously, most of you will know that Chicago is quoted in US cents per bushel, so too are farm premiums typically, and typically the freight is quoted in US dollars per ton. So what the European Union do is take the Chicago Board of Trade price, so that's going to be a very clear number, very easy to understand and calculate. A little bit trickier are these two components because the FOB premium and the freight costs, they're down to the interpretation of the EU. So they give their interpretation of what is the FOB premium and what the freight is. But because they're denominated in these units, an FX component comes into play. So the Euro USD exchange rate is used to convert each of these components from these original units to euro per ton terms. Okay? Pretty straightforward so far. And then what the European Union do is simply add these together. Okay? Three numbers that happen together. These three numbers, when they're added together, bring us to what their interpretation of the international corn price is. And that number then is compared to a reference price, and the reference price doesn't change over time, and is fixed, and it's fixed at 157.03 euro per metric ton. Okay, so if we were to just do an example using the most recent EU numbers that they used to make a calculation, we can identify how they arrived at the current import levy number. So the European Union used a number of 123.83 euro per ton as the Chicago Board of Trade corn price. They added to that 11.46 euro as the FOB premium, and their interpretation of the freight cost from the US Gulf to Rotterdam was €16.88. Again, all in euro per metric ton terms. When you add those together, you get 151.87. Okay, so we've got our international corn price, and we've got our reference price, and we simply subtract one from the other, and you end up with an import levy currently of €5.16 euro per ton. And that's where we stand at the moment. An import levy of €5.16 based on the EU's calculations. One thing of note that we need to factor in is that for some destinations and this depends also on the origins of the corn, but for some destinations, getting corn from some origins, particularly ones that are coming from the Atlantic, they can get a €2 derogation on the import levy. So as it stands right now, there's an import levy on maize of between €3.16 and €5.16 per metric ton on maize coming into the EU. The key things that we need to watch, and when you look at the formula, it's very obvious what it is we need to watch, and that is the corn price on the Chicago Board of Trade, freight costs, FOB premiums, and the Euro USD. And as it stands right now, and since they've done the original calculations, we have seen lower corn prices on the Chicago Board of Trade. We've seen an increase in the euro-dollar exchange rate. FOB premiums are a little bit higher, and so too is freight, which will offset some of these two components. But based on the evidence at the moment, it does look very much like the import levy on maize in Europe is going to be going up some point in the near future, simply because Chicago's gone down in the rally in euro. That's the real the key components at this point. So hopefully that explains the mechanics of the import levy, how we might expect it to evolve over time. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us here in Dublin or any of our colleagues, or you can email marketreports@intlfcstone.com. Thank you very much.